Happy Victory Tuesday, Bills Mafia. Kevin Syracuse with you here on another edition of Cuse's Corner as the Buffalo Bills defeated the New York Jets 23-20 last night on Monday Night Football to improve their record to 4-2, dropping the Jets to 2-4, and now the Bills essentially have a 2.5 game lead on the Jets for the division as they do own that tiebreaker. Now, it can't be said enough how big of a win this was for the Bills because I know it's still early in the season, but this was their second road divisional win, and ESPN had a stat during the game that the Bills now have an 85% chance of winning the division now that they won. If they were to lose, those odds would have dropped to 53%. So now, after that tough 3 game road stretch, they get to return home Sunday at 1 o'clock to face Will Levis and the 1-4 Tennessee Titans with a very good chance to improve to 5-2 before heading up to Seattle. And the crazy thing is, the Bills have been doing this without a lot of key players and starters. So I tweeted this just a little while ago, and I said, if I would have told you at the beginning of the year that the Bills would be 4-2 after 6 weeks, playing some/all of their games without Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, Ed Oliver, Von Miller, Taylor Rapp, Khalil Shakir, and James Cook, I think we all would have taken it. So let's hope that they can continue to get healthy as we head into a more favorable stretch of the schedule. Now, I was really nervous last night, not going to lie, because I thought that all is well. The Bills started out pretty shaky. That run defense, I did not like how it looked, but the Bills made some adjustments. They tightened up. And then, you had the Josh Allen rushing touchdown. Then you had the receiving touchdown with Matt Collins. Then Dawson Knox finally found the back of the end zone. So the Bills were up 20-10. I thought, right? I thought they were going to be going into the half with that 10-point lead. And then they got the ball back because they deferred the opening kick. So they had a very good opportunity to potentially go up 27-10. And then Aaron Rodgers pulls off another Hail Mary, and Sean McDermott falls apart in one of those big moments again with his defensive schemes and coverages. Now, they didn't come back to bite them, thank God. But I don't understand what the thinking was here. When you look at this graphic, and this is from NFL Next Gen Stats, so you have AJ Epinesa, Terrell Bernard, and Greg Rousseau literally covering no one, hanging out in no man's land. The Bills only rushed 2. They dropped 6. And then Rodgers had all the time in the world to be able to find Lazard down in the end zone as he was able to come down in triple coverage again? It's like the Hail Mary all over again, man. Just bat it down. Taylor Rapp did not need to go for the interception. But I will say, Rapp was phenomenal last night. Aside from that, he had 8 tackles, 3 passes defended, and he really saved a couple of touchdowns. And one of them was on that Breece Hall touchdown run. Then he had one of those passes defended in the end zone, and his physicality was really the difference in that game. But as soon as that Hail Mary happened, I was just thinking, oh man, here we go again. I've seen this movie before, and I don't like how it ends. And then on top of it, the Bills come on at halftime. They go on a nice drive, and Tyler Bass misses a field goal. So then the Jets get the ball, the Bills force a nice stop, and then they call an egregious rough of the passer on AJ Epinesa, and Aaron Rodgers even admitted after the game that that was not rough in the passer. But that extended the drive, and then the Jets were able to get a field goal. So then it was 20-20, and just like that, it's a 0-0 ball game again. Now, speaking of egregious calls, I mean, this officiating crew was just so terrible last night that it was hard to keep track of what happened. So I'm just going to run through this play-by-play as quickly as possible, and then we'll discuss more about how the game finished. So again, coming out of halftime, the Bills went on a 7-play, 48-yard drive that took almost 4 minutes to clock. Tyler Bass missed field goal. Then Greg Zuerlein converted on the field goal. That was a 10-play, 60-yard drive that took almost 5 minutes to clock. Then the Bills were forced to punt. The Jets missed their first field goal with Greg Zuerlein. The Bills were forced to punt again. Then Zuerlein missed another field goal. And then Tyler Bass finally went down and converted, which ended up being the game-winning field goal. So props to him for coming through when it mattered. And then Aaron Rodgers threw that interception. The Bills got the ball back. 3 straight runs, right? They finally learned their lesson from what they did last week in Houston. It was not 3 straight passes. They made the Jets use their timeouts. And then Josh Allen, Sean McDermott admitted after the game that Allen drew it up in the dirt, and he kept it. It was a QB keeper, designed run to the left side, and he sealed the deal as the Bills were able to get out of New Jersey with the win. So that is how you manage the end of the game. That is not how you manage the end of the first half. But again, it didn't come back to bite the Bills, thank God. Now, I think we need to talk about Josh Allen first because he was magnificent. 19 of 25 for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. And like I said, he added that 1 touchdown on the ground as well. Just a night and day difference from what we saw in Houston. And look at these stats that came out after the game. So I tweeted last night, Josh Allen set the record last night for the most total touchdowns through a player's first 7 seasons with 234, surpassing Patrick Mahomes with 11 games still left in this season. He also recorded his 21st game with 2+ passing touchdowns and 1+ rushing touchdown, only trailing Cam Newton by 1 game for the most in NFL history. And like I said, the dude just sets new records each week, and it's so much fun to watch. And those stats were courtesy of the Buffalo Bills PR department. Now, someone else who also really impressed me was rookie 4th-round pick Ray Davis, who got the start over, well, technically Ty Johnson did start the game and he was running well, but then Ray Davis came in and never looked back because James Cook was dealing with that toe injury, so he was inactive. They brought up Frank Gore from the practice squad, but I don't even think he saw a snap. Maybe he got in on special teams, but it was a Ray Davis show last night. 20 carries, 97 yards, and then he added 55 yards in the air on 3 receptions. Now, that's where I want to take this because as great of a game as it was for Ray Davis, and I like how they got Dawson Knox going, finally, right? He had that 12-yard receiving touchdown. Kincaid, we saw more from him. He led the Bills in targets and receptions, so he had 7 targets, 6 receptions, and 51 yards. I think that was one of Kincaid's better games this season, and I hope that they continue to build off of that. Same thing with Dawson Knox. So as much as I like that they got those guys involved, here's a problem that I have. So all the non-wide receivers that I just mentioned, they combined for 10 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. The actual wide receivers on the Bills combined for 9 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. So it worked last night, right? Great win for the Bills. They improved to 4-2, everything that we've been talking about. But I don't know if you can sustain that throughout the whole season. Marquez Valdes-Scantling still did not have a target. Curtis Samuel, as much as I liked it, they got him involved a little bit more. 3 catches, 44 yards, which almost equaled his total on the season going into this game. They still haven't really been able to design anything for him down the field. Everything are these little out routes or bubble screens right around the line of scrimmage. So I need to see more from these wide receivers. Mac Hollins, he did have that 1 touchdown catch. He also dropped another one. And Mac Hollins, he's just not going to be a wide receiver 2 in this league. I mean, he's a nice piece, but he has to be that wide receiver 4 or 5. You can't line him up out wide opposite Keon Coleman and expect that he's going to be this new version of Gabe Davis. So that being said, the Jets acquired Davante Adams this morning, and here's the kicker. They are taking on his full salary. So they only gave up a 3rd-round pick, but that could potentially turn into a 2nd. But they're going to be paying him his full salary. The Raiders did not want anything to do with it. And you know what? They can have him. He's going to be 32 in December, and I am not paying a 32-year-old receiver $35+ million. NFL memes, they had a joke that said, if you weren't with us when we're 2-4, don't be with us when you're 3-7. I mean, that's true because is Adams really going to move the needle that much? Sure, he'll be a nice piece for the Jets, right? It gives Aaron Rodgers someone else to throw to. He kind of threw Mike Williams under the bus last night, saying that he ran the wrong route when Taron Johnson picked him off at the end. But I don't know. Is Davante Adams going to do that much for them? Again, the Bills are in a commanding position now for the division, and it's really theirs to lose. Still a lot of season left, 11 games left. But if they continue to build off of what they did last night and in these previous weeks, then I feel pretty good. Now, I will say, though, I think the Bills still need help at the receiver position. I just got done saying that I'm happy that they didn't get Davante Adams, but that was after the fact that I was throwing out this stat that their receivers only combined for 9 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. So that being said, I think there needs to be a plan B here, right? If they didn't get Davante Adams, who do you go to now? Amari Cooper, it seems like he's available. I know people have talked about Romeo Doubs. I've seen Cortland Sutton's name, Deontay Johnson. I'm going to throw one out there that I haven't seen talked about maybe at all, and that's KJ Osborne. Now, this is a guy that I was high on going into free agency, and the Patriots signed him on a 1-year, $4 million deal. And so far this year, he's played in 4 games. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury, but he only has 5 catches for 31 yards and 0 touchdowns. And the Patriots have a logjam at that wide receiver position. Now, granted, these aren't the best top-notch wide receivers, but the Patriots are going nowhere this year, right? And if he's on an expiring contract, I would totally give up a late day 3 pick and just try to get something out of Osborne here because I'll think he'll have more opportunities and he presents what I want in a wide receiver here for the Bills at the deadline or even before. He has speed, separation abilities, he can get yards after the catch. So I know he's not as big of a name as Devontae Adams or Amari Cooper, but I wanted to throw that out there because I think that he really could be a target for the Bills that not a lot of people are talking about. And he played college football at UB. So again, I am all for bringing the former UB product home. So once again, the Bills improved to 4-2, and now we turn our attention to the Tennessee Titans as they will be the Bills' next opponent, and it should be a beautiful day. Early reports are it could almost be 70 degrees and sunny in Orchard Park, and after the weather that we've had this past weekend, I think that'll be much needed. So hopefully it'll be a great day at the stadium, and the Bills can improve to 5-2.
Welcome into a breaking edition of the Going Deep podcast. I'm Kevin Massare here with Kevin Syracuse to break down a Bills trade, the Bills trade for Amari Cooper by trading a 3rd-round draft choice and a 7th-round draft choice next season, 2026, as for Amari Cooper and a 6th-round pick back. It's the Bean 3rd for 5th swap. They got a little bit less back in the compensation front, but they got Amari Cooper, who is a proven receiver one, playing with Deshaun Watson, drastically dragging the player down. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling, Kevin? Give me your initial reactions.
I can't believe that Brandon Beane pulled the trigger here. I mean, we saw the Jets trade for Devontae Adams this morning, and I think that was a tell that things were to come, right? The dominoes were about to fall, and that they did. And I really didn't think that Brandon Beane was going to go after that big fish. I literally just got done recording my clip about last night's show, or last night's game, I should say, and how maybe a sneaky target for the Bills could be KJ Osborne, because I wasn't sure if they're going to go after a 30-plus-year-old receiver, a big wide receiver one like this, but Brandon Beane did it. And you know what? I'm pretty happy because the Bills needed help desperately.
Do you think that's random that both trades on a random Tuesday, October 15th, 3 weeks before the deadline, they happened hours apart? That's not random.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird how it happened because I thought that this would have happened closer to that November 5th deadline. But like I said, I guess the dominoes were falling because as soon as the Jets pulled the trigger on Adams, being, you know what, I need to make a move. And one thing that I do want to say is this is not a rebuild year anymore. For as much as people are saying that the Bills are in rebuild mode, this is Brandon Beane saying that we are in win now mode. And I like the talent that we have on our roster. And I think this is also him saying that I did not do enough to help out Josh Allen this offseason. And whenever you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, you are never counted out. So I need to go get him the proper weapons so that we can make a run for it this year in 2024.
Do you see this as a rent? That's what I want to ask you. Do you see this as a rental? Because the Bills will get a compensation pick if Cooper walks. He's going to get a contract. Or do you think that it's a test that the Bills could really continue to have him like Rasul Douglas, or is the goal to keep him, or is it really just a 11-week trade?
I really think this is a trade to say we need to win now and we need to make sure that Josh has enough talent around him, and then we'll assess the rest of it after the season, right? So if it goes really well, you say, oh, this worked out really well. Maybe we can sign him to a new deal. You mentioned Rasul Douglas. So that's why I did not want to partake in that Devontae Adams. So the Jets are taking on that full contract. No way am I going to pay a 30+. He's going to be 32 years old in December. I'm not paying him $36 million a year. So that's why I think Cooper is younger. He's cheaper. You get through the 2024 season, you see what you have, and then come 2025, you say, okay, let's take a look at what we have on our roster and how we want to properly build moving forward. Now, I do want to say about Cooper, he has 53 targets this year, only 24 receptions, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But again, when you look at the quarterback play, you go from Deshaun Watson to Josh Allen. I think all those numbers are going to go up. And the best part about this is we don't have to see Mac Hollins lining up as a starting boundary receiver anymore. I think Mac Hollins is a very nice wide receiver 4 or 5, but you can't ask him to be a starting wide receiver. So I think it's a combination of both. But something else that is very interesting about Amari Cooper, 7 seasons of 1,000 yards or more.
One stat that just came out to Advanced Stats, Amari Cooper saw 455 uncatchable air yards in the first 6 weeks, the most among wide receivers. So his advanced statistics aren't good, but you're going to have to point to the fact that Bills saw that to be Watson's fault and not the receiver's fault. That's a ton of air yards that were uncatchable. He's received 53 targets already in 6 weeks. So it isn't a issue of him not getting the ball and him just standing there. They tried to get him the ball, right? So 53 targets in 6 weeks on a bad team, 453 air yard or 455 air yards that were uncatchable. And obviously, I think they're saying Watson's having one of the worst seasons ever, like literally ever, like by like plenty of metrics, especially advanced metrics, but even box score metrics. He's having one of the worst statistical seasons, like Jamarcus Russell style bad. So like to the point where there's no idea why he'd still be starting, especially now that the team is trading players and is out of it. I don't know how you play him beyond maybe like another week. But do you buy that it's a Watson thing? Because some of the advanced statistics, only 1.3 points above expectation. We talk about EPI on the show sometimes. That's not great. Like 1.3 above expectation. Mac Hollins is playing better. So then it comes down to the Bills. They made the trade. They truly believe it's a Watson issue, fully and foremost. You agree, right?
Yeah, and who else is their offensive coordinator? Ken Dorsey, someone who I was not a fan of, and I know there are a lot of people who also did not like Ken Dorsey. So you combine Dorsey and Deshaun Watson, I mean, that is a bad combination. So thank God the Bills rescued Amari Cooper, because I think he still has some great football left ahead of him here with Josh Allen and Joe Brady. It's just a matter of, can you make sure that you could run this offense correctly and smoothly? And I think they can.
Yeah, and there's some. Let's pull up just real briefly. We're gonna go for another few minutes here. Kevin, did you have anything else you wanted to add on while I pull up some final data here?
Not off the top of my head. I'll see if I can find something too, because I mean, obviously there's tons of information that's coming out right now. So we'll try to get as much as we can in the next 5 minutes or so here.
Yeah, obviously we just wanted to come live for 20 minutes in the middle of the day on a random Tuesday. Still think there was something to the Adams and the Amari Cooper trades happening at the same exact time. That's very random. But ultimately, there's probably method behind that madness. Maybe the Bills were a finalist over there as of yesterday for Devontae Adams, and Vegas was just like, yo, he wants to play with Rodgers, and we're not going to eat any of that. Any of that money at all. So if you pull up let me pull up just real briefly what's interesting too, real quickly before I pull up Cooper, 53% of the time they've been in 11 personnel. So that's 3 receivers on the field. The Bills have a very strong EPA out of that formation, which is really, really encouraging. I still think that formational switch to the 2 tight ends didn't happen. That's a large percentage of 11 personnel over 12 personnel. And I don't think that the receivers were winning enough, alluding to this trade. So that's a ton and we'll have to see. This data is through the 4th of October, but we'll have to see how that all turns out overall based on their formational tendencies. But right now they're running a ton of 11. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And you know what? You asked if I had anything else. That reminds me, I like I said, I just got done recording about last night's game, and the stat that I was talking about was the non-receivers for the Bills combined for 10 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. The actual receivers on the Bills last night had nine catches for 97 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, last night was great. The Bills went to 4-2. They improved their odds of winning the AFC East. But is that sustainable? And that's why I was saying, I think you need to go add to this room, because you can't just keep rolling with these guys and hoping that you're going to get Marquez Valdes-Scantling to just outburst one of these weeks, right? Or Curtis Samuel. It just seems like we have a large enough sample size to know that it wasn't working and Brandon Beane had to do something, and that he did.
There you have it. And then the 0.57 EPA out of 11 personnel, the Bills may feel like that's the best personnel. And another stat to come out of yesterday, which was interesting, Kevin, the Bills actually dominated to a 17% domination rate yesterday. So although the Hail Mary made it feel different, and we'll talk about this on our show tomorrow, a few other plays made that game really close, based on the data, the Bills actually had one of the best performances. They should have won by a lot more. So it isn't just a lucky win. It is actually would have been another super unlucky loss. The Bills actually played really good defensively, especially after the first quarter. Once again, only allowing 3 points and a Hail Mary after the first quarter.
I was going to say that Hail Mary was, I mean, it almost was a turning point in the game. I was thinking, oh man, here we go again. I've seen this movie before. Next thing you know, it's 20-20. And thank God the Bills were able to pull it out, because that seriously could have been the momentum changer where the Jets went on a roll and the Bills could have collapsed. So very good job by the Bills to pull that one out. And now they have Amari Cooper to help them through. I mean, this is more of a favorable stretch too. I guess the final thing I'll say is the Bills have done this without many key players and starters, right? I don't need to go through the whole list because there's so many, but the whole middle of their defense for starters, right?
Yeah.
Now you add Amari Cooper to that, you get more of a favorable part of your schedule. You have the 1-4 Titans coming to town this week. And I'm liking this season even more now.